What is going on, everybody? Thank you for tuning in to another edition of On the Road to Victory. I am your host, Jimmy Smith, and I hope you're all having yourselves a great day, a great week so far. But we're here to continue the free agent series that I know you are all just craving out there. So we're going to get through this. Today is the deadline for franchise tags. I saw Brian Burns. He is one of the players. There will be probably a couple more edge defenders. So we'll talk about these. We're going to try to get this out before 4 o'clock. If not, just keep in mind I am putting this in and had this done a couple days ago. But we'll talk about what the Eagles have at edge defender. A lot to talk about there. We'll talk about all of the free agents, from the exclusive rights, the restricted to the unrestricted guys, and then, of course, the top fits for the Eagles. I've got 22 of them. Woo, let's go, baby. But appreciate each and every one of you taking the time, whether you're watching this a little bit later today, you're watching this tomorrow, the next day, next week. Love to hear your thoughts on this. I'm going to continue updating the free agent stuff as more people become available. All things happen. People get signed. Do not fear. This is just the first initial wave before free agency begins March 15th. Tampering period, though, March 13th. But let's jump right into this. Appreciate you all hitting the like button, subscribing, all the things you're doing to support the channel. But let's first take a look at what the Eagles got going on, what kind of ammo they have. And a lot of these positions, we talk about it. You know, you need to get younger here. Maybe we are already younger. This is one of those positions where I think the Eagles will always look in the draft, right? And we've got lots of ammo. We've got 8 picks this year, 8 picks the next year. And look, I also think you could look at free agency, because this is a, obviously premier position in the league. And I think obviously the Eagles put an emphasis at that position. So you see that they've got $41.9 million in cap space. We talked about all the multitude of ways the Eagles can create more, up to around 25, 30 million more, even after Bayard. So I'm pretty excited about this offseason. I hope you are too. We went through all of the offense, went through the interior defensive linemen. Now we're going to talk about these edge defender guys. And I think the Eagles obviously have a lot going on there. And now let's take a look at what's going on there. We know Hassan Reddick. You've heard the rumors. We've talked about this, though, for the past year, with Hassan Reddick, Josh Sweat, both coming into contract years, the final years of those contracts. So we know that they're going to trade, test the trade waters. They're going to find out what other teams are willing to, not only give up for them, but pay them. And then you can talk with their agents. Look, these other teams are going to give you this. We would give you this. That's how you negotiate. These are things that are going to, that's just the way it is. But you see the pure chaos of it all when, people talk about, these edge defenders, like it. I don't know how they weren't aware of, these things coming up. But obviously the Eagles have Nolan Smith. That's why they drafted him last year, because this situation was coming up. Now, beyond that, you've got Patrick Johnson. Now, you added some reserve future guys, so they'll be competing this offseason. So, Aquara, Teron Jackson, Terrell Smith, Terrell Lewis. And then you've got Brandon Graham as a free agent, who I'd love to see come back. He said he would love to come back. So it's up to the Eagles if they want to offer him a contract there. But obviously, we talked about restructuring Reddick, maybe extending Sweat, maybe even extending Reddick, depending on what that money would look like. So those are things they're going to try to figure out. And remember, we're talking about the edge guys here, and when you're talking about the multiple scheme defense, a lot of people get confused as to who plays where. These are not the off-ball linebackers, but they can be considered outside linebackers, defensive ends in certain schemes. So we'll talk about all of that, but just keep that in mind. I like to show you this just to keep, everybody on the same page here. And we talked about the interior defensive linemen. We'll talk about the linebackers here in the next couple of days, but right now we're focused on the edge defenders. So outside linebackers, the edge rushers, not off-ball guys. So let's talk about this. Obviously, the Eagles, whatever happens with Reddick, Sweat, I thought, we could have used more of a rotation. We had Brandon Graham. I didn't think Nolan Smith was quite ready. We talked about that. Obviously, the Eagles didn't feel that way either. But I think you could add to that room, whether or not, and I'd love to see Reddick and Sweat. Let's just keep that, first and foremost here. But there are some other options you could add to this room, or if you do trade someone away. So let's talk about all of it. And, there are a lot of talented guys. This isn't the most players at a position, but it's probably the most talented. And again, some of these guys are going to be, franchise tagged. And if that does happen, it doesn't mean that they cannot be traded for. So you can still try to trade for them. You just can't, sign them as an unrestricted free agent. But let's take a look at all these free agents. And, you've got some exclusive rights guys here, 2 or fewer accrued seasons. And, they either sign if they get tagged with that exclusive rights, tag there, you will either sign for that minimum or you will just not play for another team. Now, if the team decides to let them become unrestricted, they can go wherever they want. But this is a way for, teams to keep these younger players, a lot of times undrafted or cut, whatever it may be. But now you've got your restricted guys who they've got 3 or fewer accrued seasons, not the 2, not the 4. So you're looking at 3 seasons here. And again, unrestricted usually means undrafted or they were cut. So Anai, Hoke, Taylor, guys that aren't with original teams or whatever happened with them, these guys are, you can place 3 different tags on them. And we talk about this in each show, but I try to recap it just so you know what's going on. But they can place a tag on them. They can either match that offer that a team, if someone tries to offer them something, they can match it. They can put the right to refusal on them. They can obviously put, if they were drafted, some kind of, draft pick tender on them. You can put a first or second round tender that whatever tender it is, whatever round, that other team not only would sign them, but they'd have to give you a pick. So makes it harder for other teams to grab this younger talent. But the unrestricted guys, they can sign wherever they want, do whatever they please. And I've got 2 pages of guys here, but you can see, we talked about it. This list is packed. And as I mentioned, Brian Burns, franchise tagged. I could imagine, Josh Allen being tagged. I could see someone like a Bryce Huff. So there's some players that, could definitely be tagged. So that way, and again, you can trade for those players, but when a team does that, they're trying to make sure that they're getting something in return, not just letting, this player walk, or they're just trying to keep them. And, you're giving them the average of the top 5 contracts, doing all the stuff, giving them big money, getting a huge cap hit. So, you either really want them or you really want something in return. But look at this list. You've got Hunter, Barrett, Smith, Greenard. I mean, man, I'm giving you 22 fits because there's a lot of guys I really like here. And I think this is somewhere where the Eagles could spend some money. And you can see a lot of guys with, starting experience here. Some of these guys would be depth for the Eagles. Maybe some of these guys a replacement for someone if need be. But as I mentioned, there's another list of guys. And I'm telling you, man, this is a stacked free agent class, and not just an edge rusher. You've seen, the entire offense. You've seen a taste of the defense, but we'll get into the linebackers and then the secondary and special teams. But there is a lot of talent, and people will continue to get cut. So we'll add to that mix. I'll keep you updated on all of it. But you can see the second list. Two Hill, still pissed we let that kid walk. Maybe you bring him back. There's a bunch of options out here. But you can see, man, if the Eagles want to add some depth, again, I would look to the draft, but also free agency, because the Eagles, as you saw at the beginning of the show, have a plethora of cap space and draft picks to use this offseason. So every time you hear, well, they don't have linebackers, they don't have safeties, they don't have this, it's like, well, man, that's because the offseason hasn't even begun. So let them, sign some guys, draft some guys, and then we'll break down the roster a little bit better when you have the 90-man roster and you get to see things a little more clearly. But let's talk about who we could, try to fill out this edge rusher group with for this offseason, some guys to compete. And I added a bunch of names that you guys have been asking me about, and some guys I like, and some things I'll mention about this defense, all that stuff. But let's jump right into it. Love to hear your thoughts on this, your top fits. Maybe you like some of these guys, don't like some of these guys. But I started it off with a couple of guys you're not going to like because, well, they're teams we don't like. So the Chiefs, we're starting it off right here with Mike Dana. And look, I like this kid, and a lot of you guys have been asking about him, and I think a very talented young man. But he's 6'2", 257, and obviously in that system with Spags, you can see a plethora of different ways they run, but mostly a defensive end. In today's world, a lot of these guys got to be versatile. He's got the size. He can definitely, fit what we're trying to do here, but not the greatest fit. That's why he's all the way down here at number 22. But I like the kid, so threw him on my list. A former 5th-round pick out of Michigan. And look, this will be his 5th season, so still a young kid. And I like his game, and I think that he would be a decent piece. But I've got a lot better fits here, so let's keep this list moving. Let me know how you feel about Dana. And wow, we've got Dorrance Armstrong, yeah, a Cowboy, on this list at number 21. And look, old Dorrance here. He's actually pretty talented. Out of Kansas, former 4th-round pick. This will be his 7th season. He has spent his entire career with the Cowboys. We know who he is. He is a depth piece. This is somebody that, obviously, if he didn't play so well, I wouldn't put him on this damn list. But he had 7.5 sacks last season with only 1 start. Played in all the games, but he did well as a rotational piece. 6'4", 255. He's got good size there. So I'm not one of those people that assesses things like, oh, he played for this team, so I can't like him. Like, I don't care. It's not that I like him. He's a player in the NFL. So if he can help the Eagles win, that's what I'm all about. And I think he's a talented dude with some versatility that, you can use at some different techniques. But I think, again, one of those defensive linemen more so than an edge rusher outside linebacker that would fit what we're trying to do here. Now, up next, another guy that a little more of a defensive lineman, has played some outside linebacker in that, multiple schemes where you're talking about that. I think that he's been used more of an interior guy the last couple of years with the Bears. Just don't think it's a great fit. Put on some weight there, 279 now, 6'4". But I think this is a guy that you could try, with that versatility to use all over as a depth piece. And I think that, this would be we talked about him a couple years ago, if you remember, when he was with Houston, and he's a former Seattle Seahawk as well, 3rd rounder. And I just don't think, they've been able to unlock the talent that this kid has. And I think, hey, why not? But I've got him down here at number 20 for a reason, not, the greatest, but I think we need depth there. So I'm looking all the way at the bottom. I'm looking at depth pieces. We'll get into more starter like guys as we get closer to the top, but I do like Rasheem Green. Why the hell not? And then another depth piece who's got some starting experience here as well, and last year started in 14 games. So only 1 game he didn't. DJ Wonham out of South Carolina, former 4th-round pick. This will be his 5th season, only 26 years old, but had a damn good season. And I like this kid. I like his game, and I think he would be a perfect fit for the scheme we're trying to run. Perfect depth and perfect for the fact that he wouldn't cost you that much. So he could be one of those back-end depth pieces, and I would be all about it. I like DJ Wonham's game. Let me know how you feel about him. Now, up next, this is a name you guys have been asking about. And look, I mentioned him because of Vic Fangio. Leonard Floyd, obviously, been doing his thing for 8 years, going to be his 9th year out of Georgia, former 1st-round pick by the Chicago Bears. And look, man, this dude, 10.5 sacks still at age 31. And you got 25 pressures, 19 quarterback hits, 32 tackles. You could see this dude, he's still got some left in the tank. And for anybody, I like guys that are going to fit this system, what Vic Fangio is trying to do, and a guy that is familiar with it, still flourishing in this league, can come in here and help some of these other guys. I would not be against this at all, baby. I think that Leonard Floyd, he could be, a edge rusher 3 here. He doesn't have to be a starter. So, going to be 32. So, of course, you want to watch out. But look at what Brandon Graham was able to do last year, and he's, 4 years on him. So, all about it. Would not be against adding Leonard Floyd. And then up next, we've got Yetur Gross-Matos out of Penn State. And look, I like this kid's game as well. 6'5", 265, former 2nd-round pick. And things just haven't really panned out there. But last year, I thought things maybe coming along a little for him. He had 6 starts, 4.5 sacks. I think that if you can unlock this kid, man, you can move him all over, different techniques in this multiple scheme that he would fit somewhere where I would actually, be pretty excited if you got him. I think there's better options here. But again, this is one of those, low cost, high reward kind of deals where, maybe you unlock something from a 26-year-old kid. I love his size. I think he would be great depth piece here. Up next, I've got another depth piece in Jerry Hughes, who, man, I love this dude every damn year he becomes a free agent. This will be his 15th season in the league. That's insane. And he is still out there killing it. And he is a rotational depth piece over there in Houston. And he only had 2 starts last year because of injury, but he got 3 sacks, 9 pressures. So you didn't have to use him much. A former 1st-round pick, played for the Colts and Bills, but I've loved this dude's game. he's been a versatile piece for a long time for those Colts and Bills defense. And we talked about his versatility in many a year where I would have loved to have traded for him, had him on this team. And I think, if BG does not come back, this could be a replacement there. Somebody 35 years old. I don't really care that, he's that age because he's still doing really well. One of the better edge rushers in this league. Up next, I've got a young guy in Malik Harrison, who with Baltimore, I thought, obviously behind some really great pieces, a former 3rd-round pick, 25 years old and coming into his 5th season, 6'3", 259, around that perfect size we're looking for. He had 8 starts last season, no sacks. So you're looking at these stats thinking, what the hell is this guy smoking? But I'm telling you, he actually did pretty well last season, playing behind all of those guys. I thought that give him more opportunity, just more improvement to his game. Someone like Vic Fangio getting their hands on him. I think Malik Harrison, he's got some ability. It's not somebody you necessarily want in coverage, but you could try to drop him back and do some things. He's a talented kid with great athleticism. Just looking for some depth pieces here that don't necessarily, cost you a lot here. So you'll see them mixed in here for a little. And I think, to me, Malik Harrison would be a nice addition to this roster. Now, up next, Tyquan Lewis played more of that defensive end, and we talk about it. Not a guy I feel so comfortable, when you're looking at this kind of player, and I know people freak out. You don't want anyone dropping into coverage, but with Vic Fangio, you're disguising things 2 or 3 times, maybe a game. They're disguising, dropping into coverage. They need to be able to do certain things. Don't know that that's Tyquan Lewis, but I do like his game. Think you could try to maybe use him in a different way where you're moving him a little inside as well. He can help you against the run, do some things. Now, didn't have any starts last year. Had some sacks, though, and pressures. This dude, I think, obviously he's going to be 30, but out of Ohio State, former 2nd-round pick for a reason. I think that he would do just fine and dandy here on the Philadelphia Eagles. So why the hell not? But let me know how you're feeling so far. We are at number 13 coming up here next. And as I mentioned at the beginning of the show, this guy actually got franchise tagged. So therefore, we are not going to be signing him. But I was going to say, love the dude. Think his game is awesome. Just don't think that we're going to spend the money for, the top edge rusher in the game. Think he'll probably, get franchise tag. He got franchise tag. So, yeah, we're not going to get him. But had him down here. I thought that, if you're going to spend money, there were some different options I liked. You'll hear me talking about it, but let's keep moving up the list. At number 12, another really talented guy. You're wondering why the hell he's not in the top 3. This is not the best players. This is the top fits because of what we're talking about, the situation for the Eagles. Now, if you lose someone like a Reddick or Sweat, obviously you want to go after one of these top guys. I think for me, only 24 years old, dude, a former 1st-round pick out of Ohio State. We know exactly who he is. We saw him, with Washington twice a year. Then he gets traded to San Fran last year. And we know, dude, very talented. But I thought that, he kind of fell off a little bit in a certain sense. Just didn't look like he had that drive. I don't know what was going on there. But for me, didn't have him in my top 10. I think might not be worth, what you're going to pay. And I don't know that he necessarily fits exactly what we run here. More of that, prototype defensive end in a 4-3, 4-2, whatever the hell NFL teams are running this day. But we're more of a multiple scheme. I think you need, those guys help you in coverage like a Reddick, more of a Sweat kind of build. So, yeah, let's keep it moving. A guy like Shaq Barrett, somebody who is literally an edge rusher, 6'2", 250. That's part of his game, and he will come after you. Now, only 4.5 sacks last year, so yeah, he's 31. Maybe you want to say he lost a step, but the dude still got talent. I think if you could convince him he could come here, be part of a rotation, help us win a Super Bowl, maybe you don't have to pay so much for him. So I'm always looking at price, always trying to look at things that way. But number 10 here, another guy that, a veteran player here, maybe you could convince, but he's still at the top of his damn game. He's only 29, man. He's not that old, even 31, it really depends on the player, but started all the games that he played last year, 16.5 sacks, 22 quarterback hits, 41 pressures. This dude, 23 tackles for a loss. Holy shenanigans. Former 3rd-round pick out of LSU. This will be his 10th season, and I think that we all know who Danielle Hunter is. He is a beast, man. And I think that Obviously, you're going to have to pay a little bit for him. That's why I don't have him super high on the list, but he's in the top 10 because I love his game, and I think that that would be somebody that would be fantastic to have on. Sorry, I had to pause that there for a second. My dog just will not shut up. I don't know, but I apologize for that. So let's try to finish this off here real quick before we start getting a dog losing his mind again. Thank you, Herschel. Now, up next at number 9, we've got Romeo Okwara. Yeah, we just added his brother Julian as a reserve future signing. Now, his brother, more talented, I guess you could say, a former talented starter, I guess. And he was undrafted out of Notre Dame, played for the Giants, if you remember, but didn't start any games last year, had a couple sacks. This is a guy, maybe you could revive his career in his 9th season, a depth piece. His brother's here, maybe them together. Hey, you never know what you could find. I don't think he would cost you that much. Not a starting caliber guy. So a great depth piece, I think, that I would not mind adding at all. Now, up next, this is a guy, for years, a lot of people talk about adding, and I've not been against it, but not been my top priority. Now, he's obviously not my top priority here, but number 8, I've got him a little higher than I usually do. I think he's still playing at a very high level, and he's a guy that can actually help you against the run, not just as a pass rusher, but 6'5", 266. He is literally the prototype of what you're looking for here. And yeah, he's a defensive end, but you can use him as an outside linebacker. This dude, he's still got a lot left in the tank. And I think if you could convince him, to take a little bit of a cut, I would not be against that at all. And usually years, I'm talking about a much different stance here, but I'm over some things, and he's got a lot of talent. I just want to win. I think he would be a great part of the rotation. Now, looking at another, veteran piece, Clowney there, 31. Now, Zadarius Smith, he's 31 as well. This will be his 10th season out of Kentucky, and 6'4", 275. He is somebody that very versatile, played D end, outside linebacker, can help you inside a little bit. This dude at this stage of his career, adding a little more weight, maybe losing a step to where you're not using him as that outside linebacker as much, but dude, 5.5 sacks, 29 pressures, 20 quarterback hits, and he might cost a little bit. So I can't have him in the top 3. I kind of did want to. I really like Zadarius Smith. I love that he's still playing at a high level. I think he's going to do well in his 10th season. So big fan of his game. But, if you're spending money, I think, and before we get into the top 5, number 6 here, this guy I had at number 1 at one point. I love this dude. Started all the games, 17.5 sacks, 46 pressures. 33 quarterback hits, 66 tackles, 17 tackles for a loss, 2 forced fumbles, a pass deflection, an interception. He's got it all, dude. He is the prototype of what you're looking for on this defense. Now, if you're going to spend money, we talk about giving it to Reddick, doing all these things. Now, obviously, he's 26 years old. He's got a lot left in the tank. I think you're still going to unlock some things from this kid. I just don't know that the Jaguars don't franchise tag him or, do something to keep him there, work out a long-term deal, whatever it may be, and they could still try to do that. But, we'll see what happens. But I had him at number 1. I really would love to have him. I just don't know that, he's probably going to be the top paid guy. So I don't know that the Eagles are going to do that. When you can add in the draft, you could figure out your situation you have here. So, yeah, if this were Madden, he'd be my number 1. But let's get into that top 5. And number 5, my damn guy, Brandon Graham. And I want to have him at number 1, like I did with Jason Kelsey, but I don't want to curse anything. And I want to be real with you. There are some options I do like a little more. Now, that's because of the fact that Brandon Graham used more of a rotational piece, a guy that, we use inside as well. Didn't start any games, but had 3 sacks, 11 pressures, 6 quarterback hits, had 4 tackles for a loss, pass deflection. Dude did well. And he is literally, he's not 25. I bet he wishes he was. That's hilarious. But 35 years old, and he's going to be in his 15th season, man. I think that we all love Brandon Graham and always will. And I think for me, I would love to have him back. I think that even if he is going to be 36, that's not a big deal to me. I think that he's still playing at a very high level and as a rotational piece. You don't need to use him, as much. And we've talked about that with Fletcher Cox. Bring him back and let him do the same. I would do that with Brandon Graham again. And then you can go draft someone. Then you have, a really deep room, and I would be pretty excited about it. Now let's get into some different players on different teams that I think that for me would be some fantastic additions. And one of these guys, oh, yeah, an ex-Vic Fangio player here with the Miami Dolphins. And the next, few guys you're going to see, my top five, they're all the prototype of exactly what we're looking for in this defense. He's 6'4", 242. Some people are going to call him light, but that's exactly the size we want here. And when you're looking at the 250, 260, that's kind of like overweight, which is hilarious. Not overweight, but I'm just saying, like, we like those, and it's not that these guys are used in coverage. They just need to be able to pass rush and drop at times and do different things, need to be athletic, versatile pieces. And this dude, former 5th-round pick out of Wisconsin, he's been killing it for the Dolphins, for a few years here, and I think really improved his game this year. A lot of, hand usage and run game, things he could have worked on. I thought he did. Only started 11 games last year, but I'm telling you, he continues to get better. He's 28 years old, but I think he would be a fantastic addition because of knowing Vic Fangio's defense, what is expected, and would add a great rotational piece there with Reddick, Sweat, Nolan, Smith, and hell, throw in Brandon Graham as well. And I think that would be one hell of a room there. But I've got some younger guys, different guys that a little more on my radar. And at number 3, AJ Epinesa. And I'm a big fan of this kid's game. Out of Iowa, former 2nd-round pick. This will be his 5th season out of Iowa here. And this kid, I really think that, this is somebody you add to this team. 6'6", 260. He is what you're looking for. He is so damn big. And if you watch his game, look at that. He has 8 passes deflected, 2 interceptions. One of them he ran in for a touchdown. Has a forced fumble recovery, 7 tackles for a loss, 6.5 sacks. That's with 1 start, dude. And he was, part of that rotation there, but only 25 years old. I think he would be a perfect fit for what the Eagles are doing here. And Vic Fangio, I know, saw him over there with the Bills, so add him, and I'd be pretty damn excited. Now, at number 2, I've got Jonathan Greenard, and I mentioned him on shows before as a trade candidate. Love this dude, 6'3", 263, 26 years old, out of Florida, former 3rd-round pick, and he started 15 games last year, 12.5 sacks, 32 pressures. This dude was lighting it up. He's only 26 years old. Add him to the mix. I think that he would fit just fine here. And I had a real big struggle here. I had Epinesa in front of him, had all 3 of these guys at number 1 at one point. I had them at number even further because Van Ginkel was number 1. And I had Josh Allen there. So a lot of things going on. But number 1, and wow, excuse me. I've heard that this guy will not be franchise tagged. I don't know if that's true. We'll see if Joe Douglas does or not. But to me, I would try to keep him. He's a rotational piece for them right now because they're loaded. But 0 starts in 17 games, but he had 10 sacks, 33 pressures, 21 quarterback hits, 29 tackles, 10 tackles for a loss, a pass deflected. Bryce Huff, oh my. Now, he might cost you a little bit because everyone knows there's talent there. He's only 25 years old. So if he has a good agent, somebody is, going to have to pay a little bit. But I don't think he's going to cost you like that top 10 money where you couldn't make something work, have something for the future here while you figure it out with Reddick and Sweat. Do you imagine having Reddick, Sweat, Bryce Huff, Nolan Smith, bringing back Brandon Graham, and then maybe drafting someone? Oh, sweet Lord. And Vic Fangio is going to use a rotation of the edge defenders like he does with the interior guys. It's going to be a lot more fun. I thought a lot of issues last year, just all over the place with the defense. So, I'm very excited in the edge defender, very important to this system. Has to be able to not only get after the quarterback, stop the run, but be able to drop into coverage at times. I know people freak out about it, but this is the 4th year running it. This is the new NFL. It's just the way it works. They're not coverage guys. They're not out here like Darius Slay with the coverage stats. They're going to be once or twice doing something to watch a tight end, a running back. Things happen, man, but it's part of the disguise of this vanilla defense that, they try to show them the same thing over and over again and do different things within it. So, very important. I've heard so many people trying to say edge defenders aren't important. This is defense. They think that they're off-ball linebackers. So many different confusing things out there people are reading. Hassan Reddick is not an off-ball linebacker. Josh Sweat, not a defensive end where he's only playing that. He plays outside linebacker in the multiple scheme defense. We've been doing it for 3 years. This will be year 4, but we've got the Godfather himself, Vic Fangio. So get excited, ladies and gentlemen, and let me know who you like out of that list, maybe you've got a top 5, top 10, top 20, top 27. I don't care what it is. Love to hear your thoughts. Always down to talk some birds, but that's all I've got for you. I hope you all are having yourselves a great day. If you need anything, you know you can always reach out. But until next time, I am Jimmy Smith, and this is On the Road to Victory. You all stay safe out there. And as always, go Birds!